Hey everyone, today I'm going to talk about shifting timelines and basically changing channels of reality. Uh, and yeah, we're going to talk theory, most of all, reality architecture, how does it work? Because I feel it's really important to actually understand what is this 4D, 5D reality. And in essence, you could say your 3D concept of reality is that there is one world that we're all in. And it's like physical reality that offers us proof that reality is real. And then 4D, 5D is quantum. We understand, oh, there is overlapping parallel realities, like parallel channels of Earth that are multiple up to infinite, and then we can actually shift the frequency bandwidth on which we are subscribing to something, and then we walk out of the house and it's like a Schrodinger's type of quantum event where the cat is dead or the cat is alive, or there is like no, something shifts, something that should be physical, something that should be real, assumes a different state of existence. Okay, and then I want to give you some example, and from my own experience, how you can basically shift the timeline. So let's go with a little bit of example first, and then the theory to back it up. The example, once you start to actually observe the working of reality in the way that I'm explaining, first it kind of creates a little bit of a spooky effect, because the story that your ego was running was pretty much in a linear expectation. This is how we actually first understand reality. We are born in a 3D, and we expect there is one timeline, one past, one future. So we look at the surface world and we have some objective notion of what reality is and who we are. However, somewhere along the line of nailing this, how it works, the 3D world, and we are awakening to the fact that we are consciousness, observing this body, driving this body, having a storyline, and that storyline having a past and a future. But then we see, okay, this is just a made of information that is stretched out, like my past and future, they stretch out in some kind of probability cloud, and I can identify the story by the way that I tell it, but I actually exist in the now moment. So if I retell my past and if I retell my future, the pictures that my mind remembers and the picture that my mind anticipates, they change. So I can heal the past, I can change the story of what happened before, and I can change even the stories of what happened in my ancestral experiences. And therefore, when shifting that timeline, I'm also shifting the future expectation. And then something happens in my now, like later when I go to the street or to relate with people that were there in my life yesterday, like the whole story shifted. And even my friends, so this is the spooky effect when you do a timeline jump and like somebody who was previously in your life like a hater, like they shift their whole story. They're like, yo, da, 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 da. And you see the reverberation of your intention that you projected actually catch the characters, the people who are co-starring in your theater. Like in your timeline, there will be soul agreements so people can co-star. Yeah? Because this is how we are pinging information back and forth from our individual models. We need to have some people to reflect some stuff. So they can be our family, they can be our colleagues, they can be our friends, extended soul family, even enemies, these are people who are contrasting your narrative. They're co-starring in your movie, you're co-starring in theirs. But if you shift the informational probability or the timeline, you see all of a sudden that their characters and their plots change. Not only this spooky effect of people shifting what they were saying yesterday, and now that is becoming aligned with your new anchor point, the new choice, the new probability that you're manifesting or anchoring, but also the physical things actually can also change, like the props change. And then the more you're accustomed to this, the more you become accustomed to this, then sometimes the quantum shift just overrides any type of linearity. Like objects appear for no reason where they weren't before. And you realize, okay, even the physical structure of this reality is just a condensation of the probability that I'm driving. So if I change the probability momentum in a passionate way, like things in my apartment rearrange. Okay, so there will be steps to this, because like the reality, the way it organizes itself, it's trying to guide you through these shifts and changes in a way that is going to create a sense of navigation. Okay. Like if right now just a portal open in my back, like living room over there, and aliens started coming out of this portal, then I would pretty much freak out. And even if I say, hey, you know what, I want to manifest gold falling from the sky, from the cloud, raining on me, and then I just do this, and I take this gold to the bank, and I'm like, hey, can you cash me out for this gold? And they're like, okay, thank you, you're mining a lot of gold these days. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just like making it rain from the quantum, which is actually a possibility for humans to come into this, like materializing something from nothing. But we take steps from seeing reality just as physical to start seeing synchronicities and allowing that things could manifest and be non-physical, and then we start to allow more non-linearity, and then this kind of even complete shifts happen. So now when I'm telling you how you can shift the timeline, this is how I shifted timelines. Okay, first of all, you're all the time manifesting a timeline, so you're just in a movie, but the edit of that movie, as I said, is being a little bit congruent, is following some linearities, just basically so you can navigate. It's a default setting, it's going to be a feedback loop of your previous expectation. As you expand your consciousness, you update your expectation, the feedback loop becomes more magical. And then more and more and more, and then it becomes ridiculous. It becomes cartoonish. So when I tell you, once I got accustomed to this, I would go with like a remote control, and I would like go somewhere and be like, yeah, I want this reality, and then I would sit there in the 0 point consciousness, where you relax as consciousness, kind of like going into subdimension of this projected reality, where you know yourself to be just consciousness and this whole reality to be a construct. 0 point allows really fast updates of the screen, because as long as you're creating feedback loops with the screen of reality, the external world, and your internal processing, this feedback loop will create some rigid follow-up. Okay, that your expectation will be reprojected onto external. But if you go 0 point, you're not a person interacting, and like you dissociate from what you see. Well, there you're just conscious, and you like change the channel. So I don't like what I see, and reality changes. So this is not your person doing, because the person is in the feedback loop. The ego is in the feedback loop with the circumstances. This is you becoming more relaxed, detached from the ego, detached from what manifestation teaching is telling us all the time. Let go. Don't have any attachment to the result. Don't even have any attachment or reference to what you see. Like what you see as a representation of how much money you have in your bank account does not matter. You need to detach from like even interpreting reality as if it was real. And then you come into pure consciousness, you press the button, and the information goes into reality organizing layer, causal layer, and then just reshapes your timeline right in front of you. So when I tell you how to manifest, learn how to relax into 0 point, and then just like, this is not an actual remote, this is my obviously telephone, but I would just go in a situation, press a button, and I would see fluidity of even like people and things. Sometimes like the pixel will glitch a little bit and you will see like something being reloaded, and then all of a sudden people around you start telling you a different story. And even like these spooky things happen where something that was here just disappears. Like it kind of like somebody goes away from your sight, and then like, let's say like there was a person I was talking to and they exit my line of sight, and then I'm like, where's Mike? And everybody on the table like, Mike was never here in the restaurant in the first place. I'm like, okay, I shifted the channel, because like a minute ago Mike was sitting at the table talking to everybody, and then I'm like, I'm tired of Mike and all of these like stories. I changed the channel. Mike's like, I'm going to the toilet, and then whoop, story shifts. The whole table is having a different conversation, and Mike does not exist in that reality at all, and people don't remember him being there. So also there will be that like this discongruency of people when you shift the channel just like that. There's no follow-up in the conversation. Okay, people you were talking to, and you might try to reference something that was said before, and this is like your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your spouse, your friend, and there's no recollection of that timeline because, dude, you just shifted the timeline. And in this timeline, there's a different conversation going on, and people remember a different past. So, right? You have to get used to all of that. But now, just some technical things that can help you imagine how this 5D, 4D, whatever timeline editor works. Because we assumed we were on planet Earth all the time, everybody in the same objective reality. Well, that's not the case. This is how we talk about it. This is how the school teaches us. This is how the media reports on the news. However, where something happened, and the news is reporting about it, and if they start to go and interview people and say, what did you experience? Well, people, each person will have a different story, and sometimes this story might be discongruent. And this happens in courts all the time, when they're witnesses and they're supposed to tell like, well, who started the fight? And the witnesses, well, yeah, I saw the big man. No, I saw the small man start the fight because he actually told. And so there will be different versions of reality. So here's the way that you can think about it. Each single individual has their own VR helmet. So how we see reality and interpret what we see, not just interpret what we see, but actually how we perceive, how we see, how our brain renders the pixels of what we're seeing external, is influenced by our subscription. There could be 2, 3, 4, 5 people in the same street walking, and you see them on a physical level, like they're in the same street. And then when you ask them, what's the weather like? And one person can say, it's really sunny, it's beautiful. And the other person says, it's about to rain, it's like really cloudy, and I think it's about to rain. And you're like, okay, what? Isn't like the weather supposed to be something that's like global, like a shared narrative, shared timeline? No, not really. You could have a subjective render of the whole environment in your virtual reality helmet, because look at it, why not? If reality is kind of like a simulation or informational architecture, and we're all going around this map, but everybody has their own render, their own screen, we can be having a different render. And we are. And this is where I'm going to tell you what influences this the most? Imagine there are actually infinite possibilities how the render will look, and you can curate your individual level, and once you learn how to use your remote control and 0 point, then you can shift things for yourself. However, when two people with two VR helmets coincide, they start to collapse and converge the same projection of reality, more or less. More or less, because there's still a timeline where I'm at this table with Mike and everybody else, and then there's a timeline where we're at the table and Mike wasn't there at all. Okay? But we usually, when we bring your personal experience, my personal experience, somebody else's personal experience together, and we start to have a conversation and we anchor points of consciousness, we start to co-create and kind of collapse our individual timelines or subjectivity into a collective timeline. So there is then a reference that everybody starts to co-create the same reality. However, that's fluid to whatever degree you want it to be. Okay, and if you don't allow it to be fluid, if you think, yeah, there's one reality and you know what I saw on TV, that's what everybody experienced because that's the news, then you're creating it to be rigid in that way. Because you're just choosing whatever was defaulted, like a defaulted feedback loop. If you start to project your own information onto these feedback loops, or even shut down other people's feedback loops and just project your own reality, you will have your own timeline. So the earth or universe or reality creating itself system, whatever you want to call that, pardon, it's actually so infinitely, it has infinite potentials that it could take now, let's say how much people we think we have in this defaulted reality, like 7 billion. Like the system, planet, universe, can render for each and single individual their own timeline of their own dream-like heavenly experience. Okay, there's enough power in the computer to create heaven for each individual, but also, you know what it is doing and why the system is not creating heaven, because we are the manifestors. So we are learning how to also play different games with people, co-create realities, and then select and mood board whatever we want to experience. And we're also learning how to be multidimensional and directors and editors of our own timelines. So once we actually finish the 3D tutorial mode, which is like autopilot, and we go into 45D, we are the creator, then we can build amazing realities where everybody have their own heaven, and we can then have co-created dream-like timeline convergences that we have collective heavens also. Now, because we are transitioning from the phase where we are just pioneering this, how it works, and we're thinking it's physical, and then we need to also create from ignorance and create suffering for ourselves, and like this kind of karmic probabilities that we're just like, we don't know that we can create from the infinite potential because we are stuck in the physical perspective of reality. Scientific materialism therefore means ignorance. Yep. So we create from the ego's ignorance, we create problems that perpetuate because we're not informed that we have actually the infinite potential endowment. Yeah. And so right now with the whole reality, the whole planet is like mixed up. Everybody's creating people creating solutions, people creating problems, people praying, invoking Jesus to come and solve our problems, and some people taking responsibility that we need to create our own storylines and timelines, and it's all just like very, very interesting, and they're more mature souls and they're childlike souls, and so it's all good because it's just this huge divine virtual reality experiment, and consciousness is here, just one consciousness having so many perspectives, never actually being harmed in whatever like silly humans can kind of do to themselves. So the last thing that I wanted to give you as a technical thing is that you can imagine that this is the easiest paradigm. Like there are channels or frequency resonances that go from low frequency to high frequency, or from hell to heaven. And that wherever people are in some kind of situation, you can choose a higher frequency bandwidth. So how you learn to differentiate hells from heaven, in the highest frequency you see no duality and you see no problems. Okay, everything you also manifests really quickly because there's no mental complexity. Like if you want it, you realize that you are it, so you already have it, so it just manifests. Like it's that stupid. Like heaven is that stupid because how could I be seeking something outside of myself if I am that I am, everything that is? Then whatever I desire I already have, and when that is so simple, then it's just like spontaneous manifestation on the go. However, the lower you go in frequency, the more complex the duality appearance, or the duality, like everything outside me is not me. And then I create complex stories of like I'm gonna get myself a trophy wife and $1 million, and then I'll be fulfilled. And then you go and it's like I can get no satisfaction even though I try, right? Because everything is a carrot on a stick, or like that external thing that you want to manifest or you put on a pedestal or whatever. It's actually you're just projected from yourself something to be outside of yourself, and then you gave it so many layers of description in the mind that you don't even see that to be you. And then you can create extreme separation between yourself and that object because you're not seeing that you are projecting reality, and therefore you are projecting like the carrots, the bananas, the monies, the peoples. And then you can even create this object to be your enemies, like peoples or bananas or monies or something, because like the lower we go, as like, whoa dude, like things here is just like chasing your own tail, not realizing the tail is already attached to you, and like it's always there, just, but like you see it and in like a peripheral sight, and then you start to chase it and you're like getting lost and you never can catch it. So we're chasing our own shadows and running away from our own shadows that are projected as the external world, people, objects, concepts, but we can't figure out it's us because we layer all of these egoic storylines and projections. So it's just like hardcore drama, lower frequency hardcore drama, and everybody's acting like they're crazy. And then when you decide to just not act on it really, and just go there where you have imagined yourself to be one with your desire, which every manifestation teaching will tell you, I'm already one with my desire. When I just have to skip this drama. My mind says, well, I'm not one with it. How will it ever come to being? I don't even believe this is possible. I don't even believe in God. How could I be so powerful that I can manifest? Oh, dude, there's nothing to manifest because I'm already one with everything. And then at that point, there's no more drama, complexity, and you just converge with the object of your desire as if you were already one with that, because guess what? You're already one with that. So a little bit maybe of a clue where you can differentiate what's playing on in these timelines, okay? And where are you meeting people? What stories, what conversations are you having with yourself? And then just last but not the least, this is like the biggest one, reality is not real. it's a holographic projection, and the story that you have about it is just level of complexity of this video game architecture that is hell or heaven. So you can really choose the story to be whatever you want. You don't need to hold on to the story. You don't need to have any attachment to even that you're ego person, and you're just consciousness. Nothing is real. It's really experienced. The hell you can be really experiencing, and you can be really telling yourself and reaffirming that feedback loop, but you can just let it go and defragment it from your mind, from your memories, and then go here, and then you're really experiencing heaven. However, both hell and heaven and the whole entire world, they're construct. Only consciousness is real and the experience is real, but reality is a construct, so nothing about it is in effect real or fundamental, because it just changes shape, it shape shifts, it transmutes. So don't take it too seriously, and don't take your self-concept too seriously, otherwise you'll be attached to whatever your mind is telling you, and then you can shift these channels. And finally, find the 0 point. And yeah, if you haven't found the 0 point yet, subscribe to my channel, because I always explain how that works. See you in the next one.